All right, what's up, everybody? This is Kel State and RoundballDaily.com. Just wanted to give a little quick video. As we know, Thomas Frank from Tottenham was fired today. Just wanted to give my quick thoughts, as I'm a big Tottenham fan, of course, and got the mug right here to show it. But really, what happened and what it came down to, I think a lot of people are talking about. I just got an alert on my phone that kind of prompted this video that said Thomas Frank the job was too big for him. He's too small of a coach. I think that storyline is completely ridiculous. It's a bunch of nonsense. I think he showed, he was a very good coach at Brentford, great coach, really, even for them. Took a program with not many resources and not a lot of money, and really made it into one of the staying powers in the Premier League. And when you look at some of the players they had, and he developed Ollie Watkins, you look at Thiago is fantastic, Ivan Toney, Brian Mbeumo, all these guys, Donsgaard, Norgard, these guys, Christian Norgard, they were all good players, and they moved on to bigger clubs, a lot of them. And I don't think that happens without good managing and good coaching. I think, he just didn't get the time at Tottenham, and he was never going to get the time because of the fact that obviously when you're in 16th in the Premier League, that's not going to get it done there. But in this day and age, especially in soccer right now, you just don't get that kind of time. You're just not afforded the opportunity. And I think he was kind of managing in a way that he kind of felt like he was going to get a few years and he was going to get a chance to see this through. But I think when you're that far down in the table, and especially when you're playing as poor, just abject, bland, blah football, it just was never going to work. And I understand why they did let him go, but I do think it's nonsense to say that the job was too big for him or he didn't understand how to do the job. I think that's completely ridiculous. I think that's a ridiculous take. I think that's a take that is kind of naive, actually, when you look at it. If you look at in any industry, in any field, you take a look at it, people know how to do these things. This guy's a grown man. He understands how to run a football club. He's been doing this his entire life. This is what he does. This is his profession. It's ridiculous to say that he just didn't understand how to work things at Tottenham. And I think that, really what happened, and you look at last year as well, with Ange Postecoglou, the injury crisis was insane last year, and Ange really got no break. He got no, I don't want to say credit, but he got zero benefit of the doubt, and I think some of that is the fact that he's Australian, he's a new manager, he's a different kind of guy. This was his first Premier League job. And I think Thomas Frank, it was almost the same type of thing where, he hasn't done it at this level. Well, I think, when you look at across different sports, I think there's this thing in soccer and football right now where it's like, people tend to think that only certain managers are at this level and this quality. And like the guys like Mourinho and Conte and all these guys that they put at the top, Pep, Jurgen Klopp, it's like only these guys can manage these big clubs. Well, I think that's it's just absurd, that notion. Nothing makes them any more special than anybody else. There's not just a handful of them that are so special that only these guys can do it at the big clubs. I think if you're a good manager like Mauricio Pochettino showed when he was at Tottenham, he had things going, he had things rolling, and he was a guy who got real results, got them to the Champions League final. He got them consistently in the Champions League. We're competing for Premier League titles. So I think it's like every other sport. It's a mix of different factors. It's a mix of different things. And I don't think that you can just say that only certain guys can manage at a certain level. I think Thomas Frank showed and proven that he was a great manager at Brentford, and it just didn't work out for him here because I think of injuries. You think of Dejan Kulusevski being out. You think of James Maddison being out. Those are two of your better attacking players. I'm not really sure what he did with Brennan Johnson. I have no idea why he decided to kind of let him loose. Obviously, he wasn't the most creative player on the wing, but I think when you look at him, he was a guy that put the ball in the back of the net. He scored goals. They even had the Johnson again, ole, ole chant. And I think when you have a guy like that, Europa League hero, that was a weird decision to me. I think you got to keep him at least on the bench. If he's not playing, I understand he wants to start and he wants to play. It didn't fit into the system, but I think maybe that was the biggest failure. And I think you can say about things, the system that he brought in, the pragmatism he brought in, it wasn't right for this club. I think when they actually went after things, like in the second half against Newcastle the other day, when they actually went after the game and attacked Newcastle, they played a lot better and they had a lot better chances, and they looked a lot more like themselves. And I think that also brings back into what happened under Ange. Of course, the defense was just abominable at times, especially in the beginning of his tenure. That game against Chelsea, obviously, with the 10-man, or they went down to 9 men, and then they still were playing that high line. But, it almost worked out, really. If Eric Dyer, if that goal didn't get called offside against Chelsea, they could have drawn that game or maybe even gone on to win it. Who knows? That would have been insane. I think you think about the first 10 games of Ange's tenure and the fact that they were unbeaten through 10 games, and they really had an unbelievable start in the way that they played. I think the league kind of figured him out, and he refused to adjust for a while, but then he did adjust in the Europa League, and it was knockout football. He said you have to play differently. I think he should have played a little bit more like that in the league, especially during the injury crisis. But if you were really watching those games when that injury crisis was going on, the problem really wasn't that we were losing games 5-4 and 4-3 like these pundits like to say. We couldn't score. We couldn't break teams down. We didn't have the quality to do so. And I think the same thing was the case now. We just didn't have the quality, didn't have creative players. Frank was setting up lineups where, that we were being more defensive, and that's not the club's identity. And if you struggle at all like that, like when you're having some injuries, the fans are not going to be behind you because they're going to hate the football that you're playing, especially at Tottenham, where they're used to brilliant football. They're used to Harry Kane and Heung-min Son and guys like that, and scoring, and even going back decades. That's the way they played, and they've been very successful and really makes them one of the most watchable, likable teams, I think, in the Premier League because of the fact that they score and they try to dare us to do, even though some people say you don't really do anything. But I just think that, when you look at what they've done and you look at Thomas Frank, this season was a little bit harsh, yeah, but at the same time, you can't be in a relegation battle. I think he would even admit that if if Manchester United didn't draw West Ham, come back and get a goal late on in the 90-whatever minute it was on Wednesday, on Tuesday, actually, it wouldn't have been, or they would only be 3 points out of one of the final 3 spots, one of the relegation spots. So obviously that's not good enough. But I think now when I look back at it, and this is going to come back to this for me because I was, so interested in the Ange era. It was such a just iconic era, I feel like, at Tottenham, and people will remember it for a long time because of what he did and just the charisma and all that he had. But I think when you look at that, I think you can kind of say at this point, and I understand Ange went to Forest and he struggled a lot. He was awful really through 8 games there, didn't win a game, and really had some meltdowns like he did at Tottenham. But I think you can say, certainly after looking at Thomas Frank, and I thought when he came in, the pragmatism, I thought, he was going to turn things around. I think a lot of people thought, oh, an adult is back in the room, a guy who knows what he's doing, who understands, risk, reward, who's going to be more of a normal manager. And I think it kind of backfired, and I think it just shows that it really wasn't Postecoglou's fault at the end. Really, you have to look at all the injuries that happened, and now we're struggling the same way that we did back when we had those injuries, and it's arguably even worse, and there's no real hope of the football getting better. Thomas Frank never had that charisma that Ange does. The fans were never behind him. Ange, it's almost like a cult with some of the fans. Some of the fans still can't let it go. And he did bring the club their first trophy in 17 years, and the first major European trophy in forever. So I just think that when you look at it, it's really interesting that, it didn't quite work out for him. I think the first game that he had against PSG, and the way that they played in that game, I was like, man, you know what? We really have something here. I think this guy is going to do it. I think he's going to get us back at least into the European places, maybe challenging for Champions League. But I think really, when it comes down to it, the recruitment, the quality on that side, it's just not there like it used to be. And I think a lot of people have to wake up and realize, hey, we lost Harry Kane, we lost Heung-min Son. Those are 2 generational losses. And when you look at that old team, Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen, Eric Dyer, Toby Alderweireld, all these guys, Super Jan Vertonghen, all these guys are gone now. That whole team that Mauricio Pochettino had, they're all gone now. And I think that this is what happens in sports. When you have a new era ushered in, you can't always keep that sustained level of success. I think Ange maybe had a better shot to do it. I think they should have given him a chance to come back and see what would have happened. If he did struggle at the beginning of the season again, you can always cut ties. And I understand it would have been maybe tougher to bring a new manager in. At this point, I don't know what the heck they're going to do. It's going to be unbelievable to see who's going to come in and try to save them. And it's going to be really interesting to see if anybody can help them get out of this relegation scrap, this dogfight that they've been dragged into. And I think it's going to be, I think this year, especially when you look at the league table, Leeds is down there. There's some teams that Leeds has been playing better than people expected. Sunderland as well, especially. The promoted sides have been doing really well, and I think there's a lot of teams that people expected to be in that relegation 3, I think, that are not there at this point. And West Ham, a club that, should be much better and has Nuno, who did a fantastic job, of course, at Forest last season, really struggling, and they could go down. I think that's very surprising to me as a team. West Ham's been in the Premier League for however many years now, decades since they went down, or at least a decade since they went down previously. So I think they're a big club. They're almost too big for you to imagine them going down this season, but somebody's going to go down, and it really might be them. It might be Forest, or it might be Tottenham if things really don't go well here and they don't appoint the right guy. But I think that's going to be tough, because I think when you look at it, who's going to come in here at this point mid-season? You don't have a lot of faith in Ryan Mason getting them out of this situation. They haven't really been in this situation where they've been in a relegation fight, certainly since I started following them, and I don't even know when the last time was. It's been decades for them, certainly since they were in this position, and really kind of dicey. There's no Sean Dyche to come bail him out. He's at Forest now. He's the modern-day Sam Allardyce. You could get Sam Allardyce. I'm not sure how that would work. Playing just defensive football and long balls, launching up the field is basically what Thomas Frank was doing. I really don't know what they're going to do, but they do have so much quality in this side that they shouldn't be in this position. I think you look at it, they definitely have too many good players to be in this position, to be relegated, certainly. And they've got to get somebody who can get the most out of them. And I think the other interesting thing that's going to be difficult is it's really hard to play attacking football and to go after it and really have that gumption and courage to go at it when you're kind of in the relegation battle. You really want to hunker down and kind of just make sure you get results, be solid defensively. The defense has been terrible, even though we have excellent defensive players. And that's the thing about Christian Romero and Mickey Van de Ven and those guys. They're fantastic back there. And they did a phenomenal job of just holding down the fort a lot of times under Ange when we were attacking so much and they were under so much pressure. And Vicario was making unbelievable saves. He hasn't been the same this season. So certainly there's issues there, but no clear solution, no real clear, obvious fix. And I think it's going to be really, really dicey and tight to see what happens with Tottenham going forward this season. And certainly every game is going to be really nervy now watching. Going to be must-watch, certainly, for fans throughout the rest of the season. They have Arsenal next. That's kind of a nightmare, of course, and it's kind of a tough schedule coming up as well. When you look at it, Liverpool is coming up pretty soon too. So it's going to be real interesting, real dicey. We got to get some results, got to get some wins here. Don't know who the guy that's going to come in and do that, but certainly hope somebody can do it. And then I think Mauricio Pochettino, you got to go back to him if you can. I don't know why he would want the job at this point, especially if we're in the championship next season, but he's got to come back and he's got to want that position next year for sure. And that would be, I think, the best case scenario for Tottenham, getting him back. Although second time around, who knows if it'll be the same. Certainly he doesn't have Harry Kane and Heung-min Son in their primes like he did last time. That's my Tottenham thoughts for right now. Feel just sadness, honestly, that Thomas Frank is gone. That's kind of the emotion I'm feeling right now. Not real confident going forward. Not sure if this makes us better or worse. But certainly the way things were going, it was kind of untenable for him to continue on. And if there wasn't the threat of relegation, I think you could let him, at least stay the rest of the season and try to figure it out and get things going. He needed time to make things work, and he just didn't have that time at Tottenham. But I don't think that he's a bad manager. I think he will land somewhere on his feet and do a very good job somewhere else. And I think it's utter nonsense, the idea that he was just a little club manager. I think that's stupid thinking. People don't understand the way things actually work inside the locker room. There's nothing inherent about this guy's personality that he couldn't handle the Tottenham job. Football is football. I just think that it didn't work out for him because of injuries, because of the style of play he was trying to play. And I think coming in after Ange was always going to be a very difficult thing. And we just don't have, unfortunately, the time to give him to turn things around, because we are in this relegation scrap, and that's the nature of the beast when you talk about European football. So those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for listening, whoever did. And we'll see you next time right here on RoundballDaily.com YouTube channel.